we have to do the newspapers. Mama, good morning to you.
Good morning. I have to say thank you to Woodin for this fabric, and of course, Ajua Yeboah Clothing for stitching it together and giving me this design. She does that every Thursday and Friday. So I rock Woodin, and Ajua Yeboah designs it on Thursdays and Fridays here on the AM show. So proudly rocking my Woodin this morning.
Looking very festive. I like it.
Thank you.
Looking very festive.
Festive.
Okay.
Can you
Feasting
not
and then
add anything to that?
No, I thought she said feasting.
Oh.
no feasting
That's
and then.
it. She's feasting. Apparently that's a festive. Like, want to chill.
You will not lead me into any
Okay,
traps.
now it's time for us
Into
to run.
temptation.
Who's been tempted here?
Nobody.
Oh.
I didn't say anybody.
Because I don't
all
feel
of us,
tempted.
all of us, all of us. The whole
No,
world.
as for you, the
Oh,
way
you
you
are.
are.
Or the whole world tempted by your wonderful festive outfit.
When I
Tempted
thought,
to go to Woodin and buy some.
hey.
Ola
Kojoye.
Oh yeah.
Okay, let's do the newspapers.
Oh,
We've got the Daily Graphic, the Today, the Daily Dispatch, the Daily Statesman, the Times, the Graphic, the Business Finder. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, all here.
And the Daily Guide, yes. Yeah. All right, so where do we start?
I'll start. Ghanaian Times has got a number of headlines today. EC begins exhibition of voters register. Details of that on page 18. AU praises Ghana for low domestic violence cases. On page 17, you'll find details of a story that has a headline, Wager Dam Spillage. Dozens of houses submerge in flood waters. And there's a picture of Mr. Al-Hassan Tampuli, the hardworking NPA boss, who, well, according to this story, has supervised the seizure of 43 tankers and 1 canoe that were involved in smuggling of petroleum products. All the interesting details on page 25. On the back page, Zoom Lion and others clean up Agbogloshi market. Also, government promises to absorb 14,000 nurses in February. Hey, this timeline has been moving, Papa. Now it's February. And I thought they promised them some time back that their financial clearance crampo has been secured. Okay, in the Daily Guide, we have these. Check out the front page. 40 cars vandalized in KNUST riot. So someone has taken the time to count the vehicles, and there are 40 of them that were vandalized. Pages 3, 10, and 18 have more details. Samira donates to Ridge Hospital. KNUST VC must go, says the students. And government fights Togbe Apade over Oti region, Obed Okeze. On the back page, some sports stories. Women's AFCON, Bashir Hayford to name provisional queen squad on Friday. I am no more interested in GFA post. That's Vincent Soa, apparently. Vincent Soa Odote. Afro-Arab boss grabs top award. And all set for Bukum Fist of Fury Day 2. I can't wait. Members of the Ghana Boxing Association announcing that some time, well, not so long ago. That's me.
All right, let's do the Today newspaper. I've got the Today and the Daily Graphic. The Today first, front page of the Today newspaper. EC begins creation of new regions, but processes are threat to peace and unity. That's according to Togbi Afwada the 14. Don't insult Ekufuado Alabi to NDC, and 2-4 summons KNUST VC. That should be today. Today's Thursday, so we'll see how that goes. But let's cross over to the Daily Graphic newspaper now. Front page, increase doctoral level enrollment to replace aging lecturers. We're putting measures in place to safeguard gains. That's according to Vice President Baumia. Voters register exhibition starts today. Takes place in proposed regions. Comes with a picture of the EC boss, Jean Mensa. Back page of the graphic now. Suspected robbers break into police armory at Daboya. Ghana Water Company Limited renegotiates with operators of desalination plant to minimize production costs. Center spread. Traders back on Accra streets. 3 agro-processing factories in BA shut down. More when we come back to this paper. Roland will do the Daily Dispatch.
Yeah, and that story continuing about. So that story continuing about the KNUST issues, and it seemed to have riveted across the universities in the country. And University of Ghana students give warning, according to the Daily Dispatch. We will demonstrate over shuttle service wahala soon. They seem to be sounding the alarm. The question has always been whether we don't pick intel as far as on the ground is related to the disturbances and the protests and when they are expected to be done, so to speak. Now we have the exhibition of voters registered in 47 districts starting today. It is on page 11 of the paper. And 6 reasons why Kufuor and MPP must take Mohammed's 2020 bid serious. You have on the back page of the Daily Dispatch newspaper, the world's $80 trillion economy in one chart. So, as a how worth the world is. But okay, United States has 19.39 trillion. China has 12.24 trillion. Wow. All right. So we have the Daily Statesman newspaper. Clamp down on oil smugglers. Fuel product losses slashed by some 93%, says the NPA. Up there we have Tehran-based energy firm keen to invest in Ghana, and First Lady promotes reading. Okay. Down there we have Bolsa chiefs approve one village, one dam. All right. You take the Daily Heritage newspaper. It has a 2019 budget update. IFS provides blueprint to tackle joblessness, and that story is featured on page 3 of the Daily Heritage newspaper. EPA signs questionable contract worth 1.5 million Ghana cedis. Price of bitter malt or better malt in the inflated from 50 Ghana cedis to 150 Ghana cedis, we're told.
Yeah, that was the story on Corruption Watch on Super
but
Morning Show.
these things can always be easily verified.
And so why do they do that?
Because they don't expect anybody to question it.
Other stories we have: a legal battle against Kufuor begins. You have a picture there of James Kwabena Bomfe, and the last story we'll look at is President questioning legitimacy of the Simpeman chair. It's on page 2 of the Daily
Comes with
Heritage.
a question mark.
All right, so those will be the stories we're looking at.
Did you do the Business Finder?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, that one has just 3 headlines. Fuel prices to go down due to CD appreciation and the fall in world market price. That's the NPA.
Is a CD
making that
appreciating?
claim.
We don't want the announcement. Let it go down. We will see it. After all, when they are about increasing, do they tell us?
You don't like good news, eh?
No, they don't say. Do you see fuel prices to go up? It kind of surprises us. Like before you know, it's up.
We do, don't we?
No,
hardly.
Hardly.
Okay.
So don't tell me when
We
it
tend to
goes
have
down,
discussions
I will
about,
see it at the
oh,
pump.
prices are going to go up because of A, B, and C, and then lo and behold, they go up.
But exactly.
This
So-
one,
so
too,
don't
they say it's
tell
going to
me.
go down. Oh,
Okay.
Mama V doesn't want any false
It's so
hope.
annoying.
Doesn't want any false hope in her life.
No, but the last one.
If
the
I
last
know
one.
where my gauge is.
But the last one, this one was cunningly done. I mean, I know it was a period, but I was told,
I think the last two-
somebody gave me a message early in the morning that today they're going to do recalibration of
Then
the
you
pumps.
didn't help some of us because if I
No,
had
I knew it in the early
Yeah,
part
but
of
you
the morning.
didn't
That
share.
was a Sunday,
you should have
right?
shared it because if you had, then I would have quickly run to go.
Well, I shared it
and fill
with
the tank.
with
See?
somebody here, and the person was
These people
because
discussing insider trading
because it
live
was
on
not-
television.
because it was
like,
not
you
the
know,
pumps.
there's nothing to worry about here.
you know.
Charlie.
Be very careful.
Things
And then
are
I went to
hard,
Shell.
man.
And then I went to Shell. They didn't have the calibration there. But I said, oh, then I'm lucky because I had seen at Total. Total had 5.2.
But did you look at
And I went to Shell, it was 5.50. So I said, oh, I want to.
must have
Me buni
Philip
na.
Mami, why?
I said, yeah, increase you. I said, yeah, 2. I say, aha, but you have 5. It's machine.
Oh.
So,
You were
they
lucky.
were drawing people in and you wouldn't ask You see, you fill, and then you go. So that's the trick they use. That
It worked on you, eh?
Oh, it worked on me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, also on the front page of the Business Finder, 103 firms vie for Ghana Business Awards and $35 million World Bank loan for Ghana. Really? $35 million? Nah, you know. Oh, well, that's the reality of the world we live in today. And those are the headlines from the Business Finder.
All right, I thought we would do these two EC stories. One from the Daily Graphic newspaper on page 3. It says beginning from today, or beginning today, Wednesday, October 31, this year, the Electoral Commission. Okay, I thought it was like today. Today's not 31. Okay,
No.
but beginning October 31, the Electoral Commission will
25.
commence the exhibition of the voters' register in the 4 proposed regions to be created. The exercise will take place in only the 47 districts in the proposed Western North, Oti, Savannah, and Bono East regions. Addressing a press conference in Accra yesterday, the chairperson of the EC, Mrs. Jean Mensah, said the exercise was in pursuance of Public Electoral Regulations 2016 that mandates the Commission to display the voters' register for public inspection. So details there on page 3 about this exercise. But pretty much related is this story in the Today newspaper, also on page 3. So the Today newspaper, page 3, it says President of the National House of Chiefs, Togbi Akwada XIV, has warned that the ongoing work towards the creation of new regions in the country posed a threat to the peace and unity of the country. This, he said, was in view of several petitions he received from the chiefs of Lolobi and Akpafu in the Volta region, who have sworn never to join the new Oti region. Quotes from the chiefs of Chiraponi and Dagboni in the northern region, and from people who are outside the area targeted for new region who feel entitled to vote in the referendum. Unquote. So Togbi Akwada XIV said this when he addressed the general meeting of the Volta Regional House of Chiefs at Ho, and he revealed how personally he offered advice both privately and publicly on the regional reorganization process, but had sadly been ignored and misreported, which misreporting had earned him insult. Quotes, the views I expressed and the pieces of advice I offered when members of the Commission of Inquiry visited the National House of Chiefs on April 18, 2018, were selectively reported to give a certain impression, unquote. So you can read on, story by Kwamina Ananse on page 3, on all the things that Togbi Akwada XIV has been saying about the creation of the new regions, with the headline, Processes for New Regions, Threat to Peace and Unity, in the Today newspaper. All right. I think that will be it for these two, unless you guys have different angles to the story.
Yes, and in relation to that, we've had the minister responsible for that work, who also was accompanying the commission. Yes, replying Togbi Akwada in a statement, and he chronicled.
This is from which paper?
That's a paper we've not reviewed. It's called The Custodian.
Okay.
And he chronicled dates and events and venues at which they had met the various regional House of Chiefs, and Togbi Akwada, also being the president of the National House of Chiefs, had been present in many of those events. And according to the statement by the minister, that's Mr. Dan Boyche, there was no comment or perhaps any opposition or any advice that was given by Togbi Akwada, even though this one is goes contrary to what has been published by by the Today newspaper coming from Togbi Akwada. But I guess
he says he's listened to people. So perhaps at the meeting, people had not approached him. But you know.
But I think at the end of the day, does he have a right to go to court? That is,
who's that?
Togbi Akwada.
I'm not sure he personally has anything against. I
Or
mean, he represents a group, right?
A certain
and he's also in a certain capacity there, the president of the National House of Chiefs. So he's not carrying himself solely as private Togbi Akwada, you know.
Well, I've heard the concerns being raised, and now it's even gone national with the subgroupings of the Akpafus and the others. And if you go to the Hokwe area, which also will be part of new demarcated regions, there seem to be some express protests by ordinary people against the demarcation, so to speak. But whether that supersedes the overall voices that had advocated the new regions, I think that's
The problem is the method being used here. It is those who want new regions, or the particular people who want to be demarcated as a new region. They are the only ones allowed to vote in this referendum.
Yeah, I think that's the issue.
And so you tend to hear from people like Togbe Afede and others who may not necessarily be coming from an area that is considering being turned into a new region, speaking up against it and saying, look, first of all, why are we not being included in the process? And even if you're not being if we're not being included in the process, how about this, that, and that? These are all ways in which it affects us. So, you know, why not hear our voice? And,
well, the commission, or those who advocate for the creation of the new regions, also cite, we've had some plebiscite or referendum in some areas, creation of the South Sudan out of the Sudan and all that. So they cite some of those
examples as reasons why it should only be those.
I thought we have our own homegrown things, you know.
Well, we've had also a certain, you know, we've had some plebiscites before.
Yeah, the Northern Transvolta. It was only those affected who voted in that, and that was just
so
not too long ago in our history. We do. But precedent, you know, that's the thing about precedent.
Even your motivation this one says science.
Yeah, break the rules. Yeah, you can break the rules if it works for you. Yeah. So we ought to think of what works for us. There's nothing that stops us from doing things differently if it's better
a specific
to do so.
Case in point is about the concerns that had been raised by the students consistently on the campus of the University of Science and Technology, which had been ignored until it got to a head. I'm not saying that there will be protests, etc., but I'm just speaking about how we tend to have a certain attitude towards not listening to
minority views.
Yes, perhaps. Yes, on also not picking sides.
Sometimes it's not the minority view.
Not,
it's just the view that doesn't fit yours.
Yes.
You know.
Okay. And not picking sides. As in, we don't tend to look at the causal effect of issues, but tend to look at the issues in general until when they blow up.
Yeah.
And we've had also incidents around the world. Everybody thought the Arab Spring was good. But if you look at the aftermath of the Arab Spring and the way the West seemed to have supported it, all of us indeed thought it was good. But look at how Syria is now in a certain state. Libya is even in a certain state. Even Egypt is not the way it used to be. So we have to put things into perspective. You know, we have Iraq, for example. You know, so things that are raised are always not the way the status quo should always be, and indeed. Anyway.
Yeah,
right.
As for me, I still just want to know how much it's going to cost us to create these new regions. Setting up all those administrative instruments and organs in each region, you know, how much is it going to cost us and where's the money coming from? That is the part of the conversation I'm yet to hear details of. We need it. Okay, should we talk about this? You know, we often talk about the things that are issues, you know, problems to be solved. Every now and then, we notice something that indicates that someone is at least doing some part of their job well. I think we ought to pay some attention to that as well. This headline in the Ghanaian Times, 43 tankers and 1 canoe busted, NPA confiscates products. Now, a lot of people don't quite know how serious the fuel smuggling problem is, but it's quite bad. So, according to Hassan Tampuli, who was addressing a meeting, a petroleum downstream industry meeting in Accra just yesterday. According to Mr. Tampuli, they seized all of these tankers and a canoe that were smuggling fuel. And what they tend to do is that they earmark fuel and say it's going to be exported, so they don't have to pay a certain duty on it. And then instead of exporting it,
they stays in the country.
That's right, and then they make a fortune on it. Okay, so he says that the records show that last year 30 million liters were sold, were exported. But because of the measures that the NPA under Tampuli have put in place, this year, 30 million has come down to, looking for the figure, to 2 million. from 30 million to 2 million. Okay, so that means the amounts that they were recording as exported and then sharing amongst themselves has come down because the NPA is keeping a keener eye on what's happening. Now, of course, it's not the end of the job, if you ask me. It's good that they've achieved something, but there's a long way to go, a very long way to go. You know, people are still getting away with murder when it comes to petroleum. You just go
This is insignificant, really. And I'm talking about in terms of numbers. I appreciate the efforts.
Oh, I'm reducing from 30 million to 2 million. No, it's not insignificant, it's big.
This one is just a small fraction of it. Just
Yes.
listen to Senor Jose and what he says. And this one is just
That's true. I mean, I agree. It's just that.
But the effort is
good.
Is really
Congratulations.
But there's a lot
the
more that needs to be done by the NPA.
There are things that have been done, and according to Senor Jose, they go beyond Hassan Tampoli. There's nothing you can do about it because the political will
That's
is not there
scary.
to
When you
fight.
hear that bit,
Some
it's
of the
very
things.
scary.
Yeah.
I mean,
Some of the people involved.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
scary.
Mama V, let's go online.
On myjoyonline.com, EC to set up committee to oversee implementation of ROPAL.
Another committee.
Yeah. Adrenologist lab.
Committee.
But if you listen to Samson Ladi Ayenini, and we would go, big on that because there's a court decision that does not allow the Electoral Commission to do as it pleases. They have to stick to what the court has said. It's not a choice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will talk about that issue, but let's move on. Still on myjoyonline.com. Adrenologist lab, the man fuming about his damaged tiles, but not the KNUST son's cracked skull. This is Edwin up here doing his thing on myjoyonline.com. I bet it will be interesting. Please read it. Salah double helps Liverpool to win over Red Star Belgrade. Okay, so this is the Champions League, and Benedict will be here. 25 tweets that paints a picture of married life. Monkey holds its baby to the sky like Simba in The Lion King. Ooh, that's nice. What it was really like to fly on Concorde?
I think I remember it.
Let's finish this.
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, Hakuna Matata. The food supplement that ruined my liver. It would be good to read this.
I read this one. I actually even read the first one.
Thieves break into armory at police station. This is the Daboya incident. Still very little is known from that incident. Vice Chancellor must go. KNUST student insists. And there are so many things coming up. Yesterday I engaged a young student, a third-year student at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology on news desk.
Yeah, that lady.
And one of the things she said was,
I like her.
They want, I like her too. They want the media. So it's more like they want us to talk about all the things that they complain about, and not the distraction, the violence, the chaos.
What did you
and then so she's trying to look at the positive side of what has happened. And I asked her, so you did all this to get our attention as media? You could resort to violence to get our attention. I mean, it's a tricky thing.
I don't like the way the students are trying to suggest that the violence was planned. They decided to be violent so that they would achieve a certain goal. It's quite obvious that it got out of hand.
Yeah.
I don't know why they're trying to claim ownership
and
of it.
The call for the vice
it.
chancellor to go. We have to take our time on that. We have to deal with the issues. Before you say somebody should go, give us what he has done wrong. I think we should not quickly say,
but I think
the KNUST VC must go.
Okay, so yes, I agree that we shouldn't declare a judgment on what must happen to him. But I think what he's been accused of is clear. We've seen it. We've seen all the things he's been accused of.
But what's been the defense?
That's the problem.
And what's been the justification?
That's the problem. The defense the goalpost keeps shifting. So, for example, he first said he wanted to integrate the halls because he wants to increase child education or whatever. He wants to be able to get more female students into the university. And then he integrated the female halls as well. So what's the idea? What are you achieving? And then later he said something else about wanting to quell rowdiness or whatever. But so there is no scientific evidence.
Okay, but you're attributing this to him or
Well,
you're
to the
attributing
university administration,
Okay.
But
which
he
he
heads-
leads.
he
Which he
heads the
leads.
I get it.
So
I get
It
it.
should be a sense of
For instance,
responsibility
So in
for
the
how
end,
they
it's
shove
him.
on our
I
part.
saw something when I woke up today.
If this
and
had
I-
happened in the UK, he
so
would have resigned.
they're about.
Go on, we're listening.
So there's a
I
there's
broke
a
your thought, sorry.
there's a notice. Apparently, about 6 students or so entertained boys in their rooms.
Yes.
Till late.
Yes.
And they were given warning letters or something like
Yes.
that.
I think
They
they
were
were
cautioned.
named.
Their names were
Yeah.
published. And these are adults.
And they were asked to apologize. They said their parents had apologized. I mean, there are some incredible things that happen on the
Allah.
KNUST
Allah.
campus
And then the
that
cane,
some of us
and then
cannot
the
relate.
cane students.
But
you see, so
But they say
really,
that if it's been the tradition at that university all this while,
It's
then
still
why are
wrong.
we
It's a
questioning?
wrong tradition.
Why are we
wrong.
questioning the tradition
If
now?
it is, then it's a wrong tradition.
still
Yeah, I
wrong.
didn't go to KNUS. I
and
don't even know the path to KNUS, but it's a wrong
actually, you've
tradition.
made a good point. Is it that it was the tradition, or that it was some law written in their books which they do not, because of common sense, they do not actually enforce? But then this VC has decided to enforce them.
Well, if it is in the books, then anybody could enforce it
Indeed.
until you delete
Until
it, you
students
take
were
it out of
caned.
it.
But Students were caned.
Yes, but if
Well,
you,
some people
but
said
if you,
this was
put
not like a serious thing. It was,
was
just,
an isolated
you know.
incident.
Mamabi, there may be a reason why that law has been sitting dormant on their books for all this while. Because there are people in university who are older than me. So you can't tell them what time they should leave each other's rooms.
Yeah.
You can't tell them that. So a law like that, you'd have to be there'd have to be some, I don't want to say what I'm feeling.
Thank you.
But
there's-
I can't think of a good reason why you would implement such a...
we have
okay.
to go.
We have
There's
to
a,
go.
there's a
Kojo,
story
Kojo,
on
one
the
word did you want to
BBC.
use it and let's
There's
go.
this story on the BBC. Top South African hip hop star dies aged 38. When we're doing showbiz today, later on in the show, I'll tell you about this guy and you
That's
know
great.
how he's impacted the world of hip hop
Just
in
38.
on the continent really.
Died so
and,
young.
Yeah, died so young. And we'll play you a few of his sounds. So stay with us right here on the AM show. And then, yeah, there's this other one brewing. The bombs that were deposited at the CNN.
Oh, my
Some
gosh.
Democrats. And then the reaction from the President Donald Trump yesterday as he spoke at Wisconsin. It's all on the page. Because of time, won't be able to touch on. But people are disappointed. This was his second comment. The address was his second comment after the initial one where people said, oh, this is, you know, the president speaking and unifying all of us. And then he goes to speak at Wisconsin. And then what does he say? About the media again.
Media hostility.
Yeah.
Hey, don't need
Okay.
tea.
All
Anyway,
right.
coming up.